Can I just play this for you? Kash Patel said this. Scott Bessent said something similar. And it's getting a lot of blowback from the right, SOT 23.
I mean, thousands of people are marching through Minneapolis. They are targeting the Border Patrol. I mean, it feels like the rhetoric and the protesting is only ramping up. What is your advice to the people right now who are outraged that this is a second killing at the hands of Border Patrol in 2 weeks?
As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence. We will, of course, always protect your First Amendment speech. And if you peacefully protest, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you have seen a trend here, not just in Minnesota, but across the country, in these protests turning into violent scenarios and people attacking law enforcement. That's when you go over the line, and that's when law enforcement steps in.
Okay, so the problem there is, and I'll get Andrew to weigh in on this too, Dave, but you are allowed to bring a gun. Like Minnesota is, I think they allow concealed carry, and this guy wasn't doing anything wrong just by carrying a loaded gun. I think we should be clear on that.
Yeah, you got a rebuke from the NRA on that one when the U.S. attorney was saying the same thing Kash Patel did. And it is in direct contravention to what Kyle Rittenhouse was doing. The same people who are defending Kyle Rittenhouse are now saying you should never bring a gun to these events. Well, he had a permit for it, so it was legal, and he didn't brandish it, not once.
Alex Pretti,
never brandished it. It was legal. He had the permit, correct. If I could go back just to something that Andrew said, he talked about the chain of causation here about when the gun went off the SIG because it may have a defect. You can't claim self-defense, though, based on a threat that you actually accidentally created. So if a federal agent was the one who mishandled the weapon or chose a firearm with a documented history of uncommanded discharges, the resulting panic is a product of their own negligence, not Pretty's action.
They're not going to put Officer B in jail for Officer A, if the Officer A negligently actually did discharge the firearm, he pulled the trigger, they're not going to hold that negligence against Officer B in determining what's a reasonable suspicion that you're about to be hurt.
Well, it could be negligence. I mean, in a civil suit, I think that argument would have merit. In a criminal prosecution, no.
Yep. No. Okay, so what do you make of what Kash Patel said there, Andrew? Because Scott Bessent said it too. I do think it's kind of, the issue here is not that he had a gun on him. Like, this is America. You're allowed in virtually every place, not New York City, where I spent the past 14 years. But in most places you can carry a gun, including a loaded gun. That's not what this guy did wrong. It went beyond that. And by the way, the law is also, generally in the Eighth Circuit in particular, an individual's mere possession of a firearm is not enough for an officer to have probable cause to believe that individual poses an imminent threat of death or seriously bodily injury. The suspect must also point the firearm at another individual or take similar menacing action. And you heard Dave use that term. Was he menacing, Andrew? And I think that's where it's people who reduce it to, oh, no, he couldn't have been shot just for carrying a loaded gun. That's true. He did more than that. There was menacing.
Well, he did more than that. He committed a felony assault on the ICE officer or the Custom and Border Patrol officer by putting hands on him. That's a federal felony. You can't do that. But it's not a problem with the gun. No one was bothering him before he committed an attack on an officer. Nobody was bothering him because he had a gun. Nobody shot him because he had a gun, because he was exercising his Second Amendment rights or had a couple spare magazines. He got shot because he fought the police. He fought the law, and the law won.
Mm-hmm. What about that, Dave? Because, I know that they're there. These agitators believe, some of them at least, that they're doing good or they're doing some sort of protective detail. But like you, as a former state's attorney, know very well, to interfere with an active law enforcement operation is complete and utter folly. You are endangering yourself, the law enforcement officers, and the community. And isn't that really what cost Alex Pretti his life? He made a really foolish mistake. He got in between law enforcement and this other woman who was a protester she was also in between them and their arrestee that they were trying to nab. Both of them inserted themselves, and then he resisted arrest, but he placed hands on the officer and then resisted arrest. Am I wrong?
I could see the resisting arrest, which would be a misdemeanor under state law. I don't see the felony assault against a federal agent. If you look at the video, it shows Pretti putting his arms around a woman who had just been shoved to the ground by agents, and he was facing the woman, not the agents. And so then he was pepper sprayed, and his right hand was holding his phone, and the left hand was raised. And so I don't think that's assaultive behavior there. It sounds like he was reacting to getting pepper sprayed for just trying to be a good Samaritan.
Well, you can't interfere with a lawful arrest and say you're doing it as a good Samaritan. You're committing a crime. If he's interfering with the arrest of the woman, he's committing a crime. He puts hands on the officer. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. 111, impeding an officer by contact. That's good for 8 years in federal prison.
But when I watched the video, I didn't see the officers arresting the woman. I saw them push the woman to the ground, and then he went to her aid, and then he got pepper sprayed. And then it was on.
Well, all I can do is suggest people look at the video.
Can we play the video again, Deb? Let's take another look at it. Shot 2. Sorry for the whistle. So they've shoved one person down to the ground. I'd narrate it better for the listening audience, but it's so far away from me, and it's such a tiny box from where I'm sitting.
And all he has to do is lay a finger on the officer while he's obstructing. All that's required is contact, not injury, just contact.
Well,
you don't see that? You don't see contact, Dave?
I see it as resisting, which would be a misdemeanor under state law. I don't see a felony assault there because if you look at the circumstances, he had just been pepper sprayed. He has the phone up, and he's reacting to it. Does it matter? Yeah, I think it doesn't.
Does it matter? Like if he wasn't committing a felony, but was inserting himself in law enforcement faces and being antagonistic, and they were trying to get him out of the way, and then he resisted them.
I mean, the statutory language. The statutory language is you resist, oppose, or impede with contact. That's all that's required.
Yeah, but also, even if he is, it doesn't give you the license to kill there. It doesn't give you the license to shoot someone.
He wasn't killed for that.
Well, right. So that's why it's irrelevant. I think he did resist. I do not think he committed felony assault. I think if anything, it'd be a misdemeanor under state law. But as far as
But just so we're really clear on this point, he doesn't have to have committed felony assault for the police officers to be exonerated here. Andrew's just adding that in as yet another factor.
And that's correct. Because the question is, as we said from the beginning, were the police officers in reasonable fear of their lives or serious bodily harm, and was it imminent? And that's where I say they were not, especially not the later shots, but especially when they saw his hands the whole time, they were on top of him. He never brandished his weapon, and they started shooting because they heard a gunfire, which was because of their own doing. And so I think you have to look at everything, and that's why I think charges would be appropriate here, although, again, a conviction is far, far from certain.
Mm-hmm. How is it going to affect things, if at all, that Kristi Noem is out there saying what appear to be untrue things about Alex Pretti and his presence there? Here's SOT 16B.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement. About hundreds of protesters then showed up at the scene. They began to obstruct and to assault law enforcement officers. We saw objects being thrown at them, including ice and other objects, and a rampant assault began, and even an HSI officer agent's finger was bitten off.
With respect to Secretary Noem, it now looks like even ICE agents are disputing that, giving a statement to Bill Maloogian saying this is utterly unhelpful. These statements have been, quote, catastrophic, and that they are fed up because overstating what's gone on, in this case, overstating what Alex Pretti had intended is just undermining their credibility. And now there's an open rift between the two. But does this play at all legally? Does this get brought up legally in any way? Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, I think it does when it comes to the state seeking the evidence from the federal government. I think they're going to say that the federal government's not acting in good faith. Therefore, you have to order them to turn over the evidence to us. And normally when the feds say we are going to keep the evidence and you don't get it, it's because they're going to prosecute the case themselves, not when they try to protect the officer from the beginning. This shows they're not trying to investigate. They're trying to cover up the actions of the officer. She did not do the federal government a service, or the federal agents, who I think would want the evidence to be turned over because some of it could be exculpatory.
Andrew, I got 20 seconds left. Go ahead.
Well, I would just concur with that assessment. It's completely unhelpful. It's very important for the administration to stick strictly to what is demonstrably true and not engage in mind reading about people's motives when there's no evidence to support it. And it can lead to exactly the kind of arguments Dave just raised.
Mm-hmm. You can sense the frustration. I mean, I'm sure she was trying to have their back, but there's a good way of doing it and there's a not that great way of doing it. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? They use an educational approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.